Thank you guys for joining us today for our webinar, Understanding Money, Stress, and Tools for a Healthier Financial Life. My name is Marcos Murillo, and I have the pleasure of introducing my co-presenter, Sophia Tronalone. Sophia graduated from North Central College with a bachelor's degree in finance in just 3 short years. Kind of amazing, to be honest, just to do it in 3 years. She's extremely passionate about our industry and helping clients live a better lives than they ever thought possible, which is one of the many reasons what makes her such a great teammate and a great member of Vantage Financial. Sophia.
Thank you so much, Marcos, for the warm introduction. Hello, everybody. My name is Sophia Tronalone. I'm an advisor with Vantage and I have the pleasure of introducing my co-host for this afternoon, Marcos Murillo. He is also a financial advisor on our team at Vantage. He's an incredible advisor and mentor for our clients. A little bit about Marcos. He's got a master's degree in finance, and he's worked in multiple facets of the finance industry. So he's actually been involved in the mortgage industry, credit underwriting, working with institutional market participants, and now the financial services industry. So he has a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, and I'm super excited to be presenting to him alongside of him today. I did also want to mention that we're going to be talking about some tools for a healthier financial life, as we've mentioned, and money and mental health they're directly linked. Neither of us are psychologists or experts in that field, but we do understand that there's a big correlation between the two, and we want to help provide some clarity and some tools that can help all of you as, we help you handle your finances and your financial plans. So just a little disclaimer before we get started.
Awesome. All right, so let's get it started here. So before I get into the agenda here today, just kind of want to start off with a little bit of some knowledge. I'm sure it's kind of a duh, Marcos, this is kind of obvious sort of feeling to it, but one thing that we've noticed working with multiple families and just from various different backgrounds is that really everybody experiences financial stress. Some of you here on the presentation today may even be experiencing financial stress at this very moment. Um, so kind of what we wanted to talk about today here is just how to connect those dots. How does the stress, maybe not even just financially, but just throughout life, how does that connect together? Again, with just like money decisions, stress decisions, and just decision-making fatigue. And we're going to cover kind of how all of it kind of intertwines together and how it comes together, and then sort of tools that you can start applying really right away that will help mitigate the that anxious feeling or the stress that you may be feeling. Again, not psychologist or anything along those lines, so this is going to be primarily very focused within finance. But again, we all know that having a kind of like a baseline financial stress-free life really helps every other aspect of life. So to start us off here, it's going to be money stress, really what it is and why it's so common, how stress changes decisions and how it impacts just this decision making, no matter who you are, what education background you may have, it impacts all of us. The four-part toolkit that Sophia will cover here a little bit later on in the presentation. And then this choose your path is really just covering how it actually affects, again, had mentioned before, and it really impacts everybody. So it's kind of a generational view of how each different generation has financial stress and how that looks and how that actually impacts your financial plan. And then it's going to tie into what you can do within your financial plan to kind of mitigate that stress. So to kind of start us off here, it's going to be a little bit of research in terms of like the generations and a little bit of the background here. So the American Psychological Association, or APA, conducted a survey back in 2023 that found that 18 to 44-year-olds were more likely than those 65 and older to report they feel consumed by their worries about money. One thought that kind of came to mind while I was doing some research here is why this specific kind of age group. It's kids. At least I put myself in that same age group of like when I was 18, I was in college. Like there was financial stress of maybe eating a little too much ramen at that point in time, but not to where I am now, where I have a mortgage, I have a family to take care of. Um, but the reason why kind of this age group is very interesting is because they're what's called the sandwich generation, and this has applied across time. It's typically uh, younger individuals who are not only taking care of themselves, but then they're also growing a family, so they're taking care of their kids financially, and then their parents, if they're fortunate enough, they're still alive, so you're also taking care of your parents at that point period of time. So it's really 2 to 3 different generations being taken care of by these individuals that fall in this age range of 18 to 44. But that does not mean that older folks do not feel stress as well. So, Transamerica Institute actually conducted research for workers that are 50 and older. And they also found that financial worries is top of mind for them, especially running out of money and managing health related costs are persistent. And the key thing here, kind of like if there's one main takeaway that I can kind of stress throughout this whole presentation, is that what they have found through this research is that a lot of the individuals who feel this stress do not have a written plan. I think that is the key aspect here is just not having a written plan leaves too much to the unknown and too much to, oh, we'll see kind of how it goes. I'm sure as you all have lived a fruitful life, you guys know that just seeing how it goes sometimes may not go the way that you want it to go. So having a written plan to kind of knowing the fact that things can change in a flip of a dime just helps kind of help that anxiety and that stress. So to build up on that research that Transamerica conducted, there's various different fears. Again, very different based on generation. So this mainly focused on pre-retirees and retirees, just because this kind of tends to be the clients that we do work a lot with at Vantage Point. So some of these things, if you are a client of ours, you'll notice that we already talk about it within your financial plan. It's something that we always cover, just because it gives peace of mind to clients that we know data backs us up. We just know also from just the feedback that we get from clients. So kind of to get into the fears, there's really there's I would say the top three, and then other things that also kind of associate with those. So first and foremost, a living, savings, and investments. Social Security, whether it'll be reduced or cease to exist entirely for future generations, and then just declining healthcare, and then which could trigger a long-term care cost event as well. And then just to cover some of the rest is losing independence, cognitive decline, not able to meet basic financial needs for your family, or lack of access to affordable healthcare. One thing, again, to kind of point out here is these fears are not necessarily just a market event. It's not just, oh my God, Apple is down 50%. Now I am extremely stressed out. It's all kind of like emotional at the end of the day. It's just where are you positioned in life? How does this affect yourself? How does this affect your family? So it's, money stress is not just the number that you see when you open up your bank account app. It's truly just how it actually impacts your life, and how it stops you sometimes living your life. And so then kind of going back to my last sentence here from the previous slide here of not having a financial plan. If you guys could see those bar charts right there on the right-hand side, if you add up those two in the middle of the I have a plan, but it's not written down, and I do not have a plan, that covers at least over 80% of the individuals that were surveyed either don't have a plan or they have an idea of what it may be, but they actually don't have it written down. So even when you think about it and you feel like you may be okay, it still causes stress not actually having something written down. And then one other kind of fun fact here from this survey is that about only 35% of the individuals that were surveyed said that they do work with a financial advisor. So kind of it goes hand in hand as well. If you have a financial advisor, if you're working with now or you're a client of ours here at Vantage Point, you know that working with a financial advisor that truly looks at the holistic picture of your life of like what are your goals, what are your concerns, what do you want to achieve in retirement? What do you want to give, charitable incline, anything along those lines? Just having a written plan, that alone really helps mitigate a lot of these fears and stresses. So this is going to add on a little bit to the previous slide. As I'm sure you see on the left-hand side, the uncertain about the future, rising costs, too many financial decisions. A lot of these are already kind of the headlines of what causes the stress, but we're going to go a little bit deeper in terms of like how does this actually look like? What is the day-to-day impact or kind of signals that you'll see of like, oh, okay, I'm actually experiencing this sort of stress. So uncertainty about the future, just not knowing whether income savings or healthcare costs will be enough, and it creates ongoing anxiety. Again, not having an income plan, not having like an emergency bucket or emergency money set aside, causes the this anxiety. Rising costs and unexpected expenses, inflation, medical bills, and emergencies make it harder to feel financially stable. Too many financial decisions all at once, especially for individuals who may be close to retirement. You're trying to figure out a new lifestyle, new things, uh, new opportunities in the horizon, just budgeting, investing, taxes, insurance, and benefits. Um, and benefits create a decision fatigue and overwhelm. And then there's also just events outside of our control, market volatility, job changes, health issues, and economic shifts just increased feeling of helplessness. And then also the emotional weight of money. The money is closely tied to security and independence, and then just family responsibility, and as much as just self-worth as well. Um, what we are one kind of takeaway from this slide is just that money stress is not just caused by one individual thing. It's caused by really by the uncertainty and the complexity that there is behind it. The good news is that while we can't control everything, there are certain things that you can do to mitigate this and make decisions a lot easier for you and for your family. And this is kind of where the tools will come in that Sophia will cover here shortly in the presentation. So let's keep it going here. Um, Sorry, and forgot I had this one slide in between the tools. So this is how stress actually changes those decisions. So now we've kind of covered what those fears are, how they may look within your financial plan, but this is why it's so important to mitigate that stress because it has true impactful decision making changes. So um, reduces clarity and focus. Stress narrows attention, makes it harder to see the full picture or long-term impact. It leads to avoidance or delay. When decisions feel overwhelmed, people often postpone them or even important ones. Increases emotional reaction. Fear and anxiety can drive impulsive spending or reactive financial movements. Um, Biggest thing that comes to mind if you see a big drop in the market, your first initial response could be to sell out of it. That's an emotional reaction to a certain extent. Encourages short-term thinking. Immediate relief often feels more urgent than long-term outcomes, and then it makes complex choices feel harder than they are. Stress increases mental fatigue, turning manageable decisions into heavy burdens. Um, so now that I've kind of brought down the vibe with all the stress and then what causes it, what impacts it has, I'm going to pass it along to Sophia here to give you tools and kind of make you feel more reassured that there are things that can be done to mitigate the stress.
Absolutely. Thanks, Marcos. So, up to this point, we've talked a lot about why money stress is so common, kind of what shapes and forms that it takes, and how it can quietly push people into decisions that they wouldn't normally make. So, this is where I really want to shift the conversation to something more empowering, which is what we're actually going to do about it, or sometimes not do about it. At Vantage Point, we use a simple toolkit to help our clients stay grounded during uncertainty or times where they're feeling emotional about their finances and their financial plan. So, this toolkit is going to include clarity, stability, decisions, and conversations. So, I'm going to walk through each of these because they're all very important foundational pieces that allow everything else within your financial plan to work and work properly. So we all know that financial stress thrives in uncertainty. The more unclear things feel, the louder your fear becomes. So our first goal is always going to be clarity, helping clients understand what's happening, and how and why their plan is built to handle it. So, clarity really means
Oh,
separating your feelings from facts. So, the goal is to reduce emotional overload before we even discuss decisions and what we're going to do about it. So, really understanding that feelings are fleeting and they feel really big in the moment. We've all seen market headlines or we see the numbers and we panic, and it creates that kind of pit in our stomach of, oh my God, what are we going to do about it? Am I going to be okay? People often think, what if this is the wrong time? What if I lose everything? What if I run out of money? But let's focus on things that actually matter. And so we encourage our clients to ask these questions first. So how much money do I really need in the next 12 to 24 months? How much is already protected from market swings? And how long does the rest of my money have to work? So we always say if your short-term needs are protected, then your long-term money doesn't need to panic. Um, let's see here. One of the most important concepts that we teach clients, especially those approaching retirement, is sequence of returns. So if you're a client of Vantage Points, you've probably seen this already, but it's honestly really impactful to review it every once in a while and truly see the impact that this has on a financial plan. So, sequence of returns refers to the order in which market returns happen, not just the long-term average that your portfolio makes over time. So, if I were to ask everyone on this call today or on this workshop today, if you would prefer having an 11.78% average rate of return or 11.2% average rate of return, what would you say? Chances are you would say, well, I want the higher. I want the 11.78%. But that doesn't always mean that your situation is better off. And that really also emphasizes the importance that returns in the market aren't everything. It's not what dictates an amazing financial plan. So, when you're contributing to your portfolio and you're in the accumulation stage of life and you're working and you're investing and you're saving, down markets can actually be beneficial because, as you've probably heard the term, buy low and sell high. Sometimes you're able to get in when you're buying at what we call a discount. But when you're actually taking income from the portfolio and you're in that distribution phase of life in retirement, negative returns really early on can have an outsized impact um, on your plan, especially if decisions are made pretty reactively. So this is why panic selling during downturns is so damaging because it's not just that the markets are down, it's the selling that actually changes the trajectory of your plan. So if we take a look at this slide, we can see two different
oh,
situations.
sorry.
Um, we've got Mr. Johnson on the left and we've got Ms. Hamilton on the right. Now they've got the exact same setup of their portfolio. They each have $1 million. It's invested the same exact way, 60% bond or 60% stocks, 40% bonds. And they each want $80,000 per year from their portfolio to take as income. Now, the only difference that these individuals have is the year in which they retired. Now, Mr. Johnson retired in 1969 and Ms. Hamilton retired in 1979. And if we look at Mr. Johnson's case first, we can see that, he ends up running out of money. And if we look at why, it's because, well, in 1969, when he retired, the market was down 7%. But on top of that, he also still needed his $80,000. Then he has got a couple good years, but then the market's down 7% again. Then it's down almost 15%. And each year he's still taking that $80,000. And so by locking in those losses in the negative year and taking out that income, he ends up running out of money, before the end of his retirement. Whereas on the right-hand side, Ms. Hamilton retired in 1979. And she got pretty lucky. She had some really great years, some years that were maybe a little bit flat. Later on in retirement, she had some negative years, about negative 2.4. She had a negative 7. So she still had negative years in there. But she lucked out. Most of the years were positive, and she was still taking out that $80,000. But she ended up having almost $9 million by the end of her retirement. So clarity comes from knowing that your plan was designed with this risk in mind and not caught off guard by it. Moving on, another key clarity tool we use is Retire Up. This is a software we use with all of our clients. The clients that are on this call, you've definitely seen this before, and it's a really great planning tool for your retirement. Let's see and stress test your financial plan and ensure that you can live a long and fruitful retirement. So sometimes people come to us and they don't realize that their retirement can span 2, 3, 4 decades. Maybe you retire when you're 60 and you pass when you're 100. Well, that's 40 years of retirement that we need to fund and make sure that we have a stable plan for. So, again, one of the biggest fears we hear is, am I going to run out of money? And this fear often isn't rooted in reality. It's rooted in not knowing how your spending, your income, and your assets fit together over a multi-decade period. So we're not just looking at today's expenses, we're modeling out what does your early retirement spending look like? What does your mid-retirement transition look like? And what does your later stage care and lifestyle changes look like? You know, maybe we're not sure exactly when you'll retire yet, but what would happen if you were to lose your job today or next year? Is your retirement plan still in place? What would happen if a long-term care event happened in your 90s? Does your plan sustain that kind of impact? And so this is a really great tool we use to help bring clarity to your plan and understand the bigger picture here. So we also want to bring clarity and show the power of staying invested. So market rebounds are a great way to do that. We want to use data and not headlines. So typically, investors who stay invested through downturns tend to recover a lot more effectively than those who sell and panic and then try to time their way back in. So this chart here is showing the past 20 years of market data. And so as you can see in the chart, it says 7 of the best 10 days in the market over the past 20 years occurred within 2 weeks of the 10 worst days. To go even further, 6 out of the 7 best days occurred after the worst days. And the second worst day of 2020, which was March 12th, was immediately followed by the second best day of that year. And so we want to show clients that it's not just theory, it's real scenarios and real market data. So we always want to show, what happens if you sell during a market decline, but what happens if you stay invested and you follow the plan? The research shows that you're better off staying invested and kind of staying along the course, even when it feels challenging, even when it feels really difficult. So, seeing these outcomes side by side help us reframe the conversation from fear to perspective. The goal isn't to ignore volatility, it's to understand its purpose and its context in a long-term plan. One thing that we can't say the word guarantee a lot, but one thing that we can guarantee is that the market's going to change over time. We're going to have years that are good, we're going to have years that are bad. And so building your plan with this in mind brings clarity to it and helps you hopefully have more confidence that you don't need to make a rash decision in times where the market seems uncertain or you are panicking about your finances. So we've talked about clarity and what it means to show, why these things happen and bring perspective to your plan. But we also want to talk about stability tools, things that are considered financial shock absorbers so that, you understand the why of it, but you also understand what we have in place to protect you. So this helps you feel secure even when markets don't feel very secure. And one of the things that helps you feel secure is our bucket plan. Our bucket plan is a tool that we use with every single client, and it's really a foundational piece to your financial plan. We segment your money for different timelines and different purposes so that you always feel protected. So rather than treating your portfolio as one large pool of money, we organize our assets a little bit differently. So what this does is it allows our clients to fund their lifestyle without the need to rely on long-term investments during short-term downturns. So even when markets are volatile, our clients know that their income is planned, their short-term needs are covered, and their long-term investments have time to recover. So this structure alone removes a significant amount of stress if you know that for the next couple years you can rely on your now bucket, which is money that's safe and liquid, and your soon bucket, which is money that's more conservatively and income focused. And the timelines of those buckets are the now bucket is about a year. The soon bucket can be anywhere from 2 to 10 years, and your later bucket is hopefully 10 years and beyond. And it's more focused for long-term growth and legacy. And so kind of having these structures in place allow you to realize that, hey, maybe I'm seeing some pretty negative headlines and I'm starting to panic, but I know that my spending is totally fine. So I don't even have to worry about what's going on in my later bucket because I know my now and soon bucket are secure. Another stability tool that we use at Vantage Point is an estate plan. This really helps make families feel more comfortable knowing that their wishes are put into place, their families are going to be taken care of, and they feel more confidence within their plan. So, an up-to-date estate plan provides clarity and stability around decision-making authority, asset distribution, and family protection. So without it, families are often left navigating very emotional decisions during already stressful and sad moments. So at Vantage Point, we see your estate plan as part of overall financial wellness, not just a legal checkbox, but it's really a way to protect both of your assets and your peace of mind. And so this is also serves as a reminder as we're in the new year and you're maybe setting those goals for 2026 and your New Year's resolution. If this estate plan is not put in place yet, I highly, highly recommend that you get one in place. If you don't know where to look, where to start, talk to a member of our team. We have tons of resources and we can help you get your estate plan put into place at a very competitive and really great price. Moving on, we've talked about clarity, we've talked about stability. Now we're going to talk a lot about decision tools and frameworks. So, the biggest thing I want to emphasize is focus on what you can control. We can't control what the market does. We can't control what the news puts out there in the headlines, but we can focus on things that are well within our control, which typically are, do I need to make a decision right now? Do I need to do anything? So the first decision tool I'd like to emphasize is called the bad year test. And the goal of it is to stop fear-based decisions. So this definitely relates to um, your finances. All of these are financial focused, but you can also use these tools with other aspects in your life. So the goal is to stop the fear-based decisions, and you can ask yourself, if the market has a bad year, which part of your life actually changes? Are your bills paid? Is your income covered? Is your emergency fund intact? If the answer is yes, you don't need to make any decisions. Market movement alone is not a reason to change your plan. I'm going to reemphasize that. Market movement alone is not reason enough to change your plan. Decision number two, tool number two, what actually breaks? This goes along great with number one. So the goal of this one is to replace your vague fear with a very specific reality. So ask yourself, what specifically would have to happen for your plan to fail? And test it. This is where we bring in those retirement projections. What happens if the market is down for 1 year, for 3 years, or for 10 years? What happens if your spending needs increase, or you have a health event that increases your healthcare costs? What happens if you're still working, but you lose your job and you're forced into an early retirement? And what most people realize is their fear is emotional based. It's not structural. And so this is what really helps restore confidence in the plan, and help our clients realize that the plan's there for a reason and it's built specifically for you and your family. Now, decision tool number three is called the pause rule. This one you can absolutely use in your financial life, but you can absolutely use in pretty much any other aspect of your life. I'm sure many of us have experienced times where you're feeling emotionally charged. Maybe you're sad, maybe you're angry, frustrated, you're stressed out, and you say something that you shouldn't have said. And you realize looking back on it, if only I had paused, maybe taken a deep breath, I wouldn't have said that and things would have turned out differently. And I'd argue that the same rule applies to your finances. And the goal of the pause rule is to prevent impulse moves. As I showed previously, selling when the market is down ends up usually having a negative impact on your plan than if you just pause and you wait it out. So I'd say create a rule for yourself. No major financial decisions should be made during an emotional spike. Instead, I'd argue you should wait at least 24 hours, maybe up to 72 hours. So wait a day, a two, or 2 days, or 3 days before you do anything. Then I'd argue, let's review the plan. Let's revisit your goals and then decide if anything should be done. This really helps our client protect our clients from locking in losses or abandoning strategy at the worst time. The next tool I'd like to talk about now is running out of money, the reframing the real risk. So we call it the reframe rule. Sorry there. It's kind of a tongue twister. Now, most people think a market crash makes you run out of money. The real risk, though, is panic selling. It's overspending without awareness, and it's not adjusting your plan as your life changes. Um, and and it could be avoiding talking about all of these things altogether. Now, Marcus did a really great job highlighting earlier in this presentation that stress, specifically about money, sometimes leads us to be very avoidant. And we kind of think out of sight, out of mind. If I don't think about this, it's not a problem. But really, a better reframe that everyone should focus on is running out of money and money stress usually comes from behavior, not markets itself. So your plan isn't built to fail overnight. They fail slowly. And how you catch that is reviewing your plan on at least on an annual basis and making those adjustments as needed. So one thing I also want to highlight are some calming phrases that you can tell yourself in the event that you're panicked, you're stressed, you're feeling emotional about money. So I'm going to repeat these a few times because I really want you to remember them. Your plan is built for uncertainty. The market moving does not mean your plan is broken. Your plan is built for uncertainty. The market moving does not mean your plan is broken. The other one I'd like to emphasize is we don't need the market to behave perfectly for your plan to work. Again, that one is we don't need the market to behave perfectly for your plan to work. Again, we build in these buffers, these stability tools, these clarity tools, so that your plan works. And lastly, this kind of coincides or connects with my last point about selling when the market's down or panicking. This decision tool is reality before headlines or rules before headlines. So we want to help clients define decision rules before stress hits. So instead of reacting to news, we want to establish when adjustments are made, when they're not made, and what signals actually matter. So we've all seen, the news. It's designed to get an emotional reaction out of us. And so we've probably seen the news many times where maybe we've had one down, market day, and all of the news headlines say that the rest of the year is going to be crap and the market's going to tank and we're heading into a recession, this and that, and you panic. It's a natural reaction to feel upset by that. But in reality, the times that we want to make an adjustment in your financial plan are different. We'd want to make an adjustment in your financial plan if there's a change in your job circumstance, a change in your income circumstance, not necessarily news correlated, but something that actually correlates to you and your personal situation. So this is going to remove the emotion from the process and replace it with discipline. The plan becomes your guide, not fear, not the news headlines, not the media noise. So we've talked about a lot today. Clarity tools, stability tools, decision tools, and I'd like to talk more about conversation tools. So specifically, starting off, we'll talk about some family conversation tools. Research shows that in financial planning and family communication, it highlights that talking about money in a very structured and supportive way isn't just helpful, but it's actually linked to better financial understanding, and fewer misinterpretations across families. So its purpose is not to resolve every single thing today and be perfectly aligned and in agreement, but it's about establishing more of a shared language and community. So I'd recommend starting with a goal. Again, it's a new year, 2026, perfect time to do so. Sit down with your family, sit down with your spouse. Maybe you want to include your kids as well, and start with a goal. This is going to help reduce future stress and not debate what happened in the past. We'd also recommend leading with values. What matters most to you? Set up a simple meeting structure as well. So families are busy. There's usually a lot going on. Life just gets in the way. But maybe set aside 30 minutes, 45 minutes, set an agenda and agree on next steps. So what matters most to you? If you are a client of Vantage Point and you do have a meeting coming up, sit down with your spouse and say, hey, what's important for us together? Maybe you realize that one of you is panicking about what the market conditions are like and the other one is content with the plan. But it's important to recognize where both spouses are at, so you can go into the meeting aligned and knowing how each of you feel, and that can help guide our meeting in the future. Keep it supportive, curiosity over criticism, clarity over assumptions. Money is a very, very sensitive topic. That's why we're talking about it today. Money and mental health. Um, they are very, very closely linked, and money is a huge reason for stress within families. So keep it supportive. Um, we also want to recommend that you write things down. Write down decisions that you're thinking about making. Write down the roles that each of you have in your family, key contexts, where documents live. This is also a reminder, use that family estate organizer you've probably received from us at some point in the past if you're a client. That's a really great tool to house your documents, to write everything down, and to keep it in one main spot that you and your family can refer back to. Next, I'd like to highlight financial advisor conversation tools. So if you're familiar with Vantage Point, which many of you are, then you know we use our elevated retirement plan approach. Now, this is what drives your financial plan. And we want to talk about these key areas at the very minimum on an annual basis to make sure that you do feel clarity, that you do feel stability, and you do feel confidence in your plan. So just to give a quick review of these six key areas, the main one is your goals and concerns. We wouldn't be, um, doing what we're doing if your goals and concerns, weren't a factor in your plan. They are what drives your financial plan. What is important to you? What scares you? All of those help you make decisions to have a very healthy financial plan and financial life. Income planning is really big. So where are we going to pull your income from? Social Security, your investments in years where the market is down. How are we going to pivot? Which asset are we going to pull from in your soon bucket to help support your income needs so we're not touching your later bucket? Investment management. How do we want to structure your assets? What is your risk tolerance? Tax management. How are we going to lower your lifetime tax bill? Healthcare and insurance. How do we plan for your insurance needs? Maybe that's Medicare. Maybe it's considering a long-term care policy. All of these things relate to one another and help create a really great financial plan. And lastly, as I mentioned, legacy planning. That kind of correlates with our stability tools. What kind of plan do we have in place so that your legacy lives on and your family is taken care of? So these key areas all work together, again, under our elevated retirement plan approach. And it's really important to review it with your financial advisor, at least the very minimum, an annual basis.
So now we get to the choose your path, or really kind of like a snapshot in time where you are in life right now, what season of life you're in. So to start off, we're starting off with either retirement or near retirement. So again, kind of we talked about a lot here today in terms of what causes stress, how it looks like, tools to mitigate that, and this is going to be kind of like a nice summary, kind of putting a bow to it all together here. So, uh, part of this is just going to be some reminders of what we covered. So, common stresses, is if you're either already in retirement or close to retirement, is will my money last? Market volatility while taking income, healthcare and long-term care costs, taxes, required minimum distributions or RMDs, and estate planning clarity and kind of what helps reduce this. So income clarity, just knowing which sources to cover essential spending versus discretionary. Again, this kind of going back to what Sophia mentioned. If you're having these conversations, either with us here at Vantage Point or with an existing financial advisor, just making sure you have a proper income plan set for the different things in life. Whether it's travel, necessities, or even needs or wants, maybe a nice boat or something for the summer, things like that. Volatility planning, keeping near-term spending insulated from market swings. Again, volatility is not really the enemy. It's just a part of life, it's part of the markets. So just embedding that within your financial plan and making sure you have the proper levers to pull when needed to either mitigate it or take advantage of it. Just having that properly in place. And then again, regular reviews in terms of everything, in terms of income, healthcare, tax strategies, beneficiaries. And this could either be with your financial advisor, but then also with your family members. Just knowing that they also feel stress or anxiety. Maybe they don't know what will, maybe you are the main person who takes care of the finances and talking about it with your spouse or with their kids and knowing, hey, this is kind of where it's already in place. This is what can continue going if I do have an untimely death or anything along those lines. So next one here is going to be just adult children or grandkids. The common stresses for the younger generation could just be rising costs and inflation, paying down debt or trying to save at the same time. Career volatility that, especially with like AI, it's just a whole lot of chatter in terms of how it's going to change the landscape for careers and then time pressure as well. Always just feeling like, oh, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. People my age group are doing this, and that. Like, why am I not doing that as well? So time pressure as well, and just comparison can get to you. But what helps reduce that dual purpose money system. Honestly, I would even go far enough to if it's possible to do like a triple purpose. One of them being savings and then debt but then also fun money. The way that I like to think about this, it's like following a very strict diet. If you follow like an extremely strict diet, those temptations of like maybe a cupcake or some ice cream, those things become way more prevalent when you're forcing yourself of like, no, 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 I cannot do it, compared to saying, on a Friday night, I can have a pint of ice cream and I won't feel bad about it. I'm gonna completely enjoy it. So having even that fun money is going to make it a lot easier and not make you kind of feel guilty of like, hey, I'm spending this money. If you have a plan and a purpose for it, that is the main goal. Simplifying decisions. Again, we talked about decision fatigue, having so much, whether it's budgeting, your investments, your tax planning, estate planning, just everything encompassed. It could feel like a lot and it's overwhelming for sure. So just trying to simplify decisions, take it one step at a time. And again, regular reviews, whether it's with your financial advisor, with your family, with your parents, just income, expenses, investment strategy, long-term plan, and goals. And I love this quote here. The best time to write a story is yesterday. The next best time is today. So if you feel like, hey, I do need some help, maybe I can get a different perspective, get some more insights on certain things about my plan. We love doing this each and every single day for all of our clients. So if you are interested, I mean, we are open to talking, and even if it's just a quick, we do a strategy session, a quick 30 minutes. We get to know a little about you. You get to know a little bit about us and we can answer some questions there and then can kind of gauge, okay, yeah, I'd like to learn more, and we can take it from there. So now we got to our Q&A section. I do apologize. I should have covered this at the very beginning when I went over the agenda. There should be a QR bar towards the bottom of your Zoom window. If you click it on there and you want to post some questions, please try to keep it general, nothing specific, super specific about your financial plan. If it's a general question that we can definitely answer, but if it's something a little bit more specific to your plan, I would consider taking advantage of like a strategy session with us. There you could go as specific as you'd like, but at the moment, just general, please.
Yep. Um, as we wrap up for today, I do want to reinforce something very important. If you're already a Vantage Point client, you do have a plan in place. This
Awesome.
plan was built for periods of uncertainty and not just the calm markets. Your role isn't to predict what happens next, it's to put trust in your elevated retirement plan, rely on your bucket plan, and reach out anytime questions come up. That's what we're here for. If your estate plan hasn't been completed or reviewed recently, we can help with that as well. And if you're here today and you don't have a comprehensive plan yet, this is exactly why we do what we do. We don't want you to feel like you have to navigate that financial stress alone. So again, please feel free to ask questions. I do want to highlight maybe some of our upcoming events as well. On the next slide here, we've got a couple different workshops in person and both online. On the next slide, if you want to switch the
Yeah,
slide here.
there we go.
Perfect. So we've got some in-person events, some of our core classes that we teach, taxes and retirement, estate planning, Social Security. You're able to register with the QR code on the screen. We do have some virtual workshops coming up as well. These are just the next couple months. We plan to have more in place for the remainder of the year, but these are the ones we've got on the calendar so far. The first one coming up soon in a week or two, Dr. Daniel Crosby. This is a virtual workshop, January 27th, 6 p.m. We're bringing in a phenomenal guest speaker. He is a psychologist. He is the author of the best-selling book, The Soul of Wealth. And he really does a great job of painting the picture of kind of a little bit of what we're talking about today. Um, the psychology of money, the meaning of wealth, and how it encompasses more than just the dollar amount to your name. So he's fantastic. We'd love to have you join. By joining, it's completely free, and you do get a copy of his book, The Soul of Wealth. We do have some other virtual workshops coming up as well. February 3rd, we've got one on taxes, our new tax Vantage Point tax practice, and tax management. So tax, and more tax.
Mhm.
Perfect for heading into tax season.
Yep.
And lastly, we've got one in March, March 19th. I will be co-hosting that one. It is Women and Longevity, Financial Planning for a Longer Life. So that one is geared towards women, clients and non-clients as well. Really any woman in your life that you think would benefit from something like that. Feel free to pass that information along. So we'd love to see you at more of these. We hope to see you there. And once again, if you've got any questions, just let us know.
And then just to kind of wrap it up here, so just it's like, hey, well, hopefully this is the reaction. Hey, I love what I've heard so far. How can I learn more about you guys or just get in touch with you guys? There's a couple places here to check us out. So there's our website, our LinkedIn profile, our office number, and our email, and then our address there as well. If you're local to the area, we would love to see you in person. But we also understand that life gets busy. Sometimes it has to be virtual, so we are always open as well to doing a Zoom call or even just a phone call. And again, if you've liked what you've heard so far, doing the 30-minute strategy session is completely free. And then there's where you can ask a little bit more specifics about your plan, or if you know somebody who is dealing with financial stress and you think that they could benefit from learning from us or just asking us some questions, feel free to forward our information there, and we'd be more than happy to really talk to anybody who's willing to hear us out.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining today. We really appreciate it, and we really hope to see you in the near future or hear from you in the near future. So thank you, everybody.